Hey there, everyone. I'm the Tank Guy, and today I'm here with Devin. Devin's up in Canada. Devin is kind of like me. He owns a party rental company, barn venue, and an Airbnb. How you doing, Devin? Or Devin? Sorry.
I'm good. How are you doing today?
Good, good. All right, so you own a party rent. We'll do a little bit on the party rental, but mostly we're going to do the barn. Uh, got a party rental company up there. You do a lot of structures and things like that. So why don't you just give a background on your party rental company?
Yeah, so I got into the party rental business in 2016. We started out actually a little bit differently than most people would originally do it. We actually bought the Avant and the tent ox first before buying any tents,
Really?
and actually sub-rented everything. And we were putting up tents with two or three people to start out, and just to make sure that this system worked here. And it turned out it did really well. And after that, we started buying tents, tables, chairs, um, and since then, it's just taken off. There's been endless requests for weddings. Before COVID, there was lots of festivals we did. Our biggest clientele is all lakefront owners and second home owners who want to have big parties, big extravagant weddings, and show off to all their friends and family. So
Right.
um, basically, uh, we come in and put up some nice tents so they can stay sheltered outside. One of our favorite things is doing island jobs or on a barge, which is really cool for pictures. Another thing we do a lot of is a lot of traveling, actually. So, because of our geographic location, on average, we do 40 kilometers per visit just because there are so many lakes to travel around just to get to somewhere that's only 15 kilometers away. Or for
Right.
you guys in the States, that's like 10 miles.
Right. So you bought a tent ox or Avant,
Yeah.
um, and you were sub-renting tents from companies. They were just letting you set them up. They didn't have to set them up for you.
Correct. So we actually just approached multiple different companies that were within about an hour away from us, and we offered to set up tents for them for their events, plus any events that we got. So a company that was really struggling, um, they had no staff. They had one girl doing their linen. When I approached them, they were over the moon happy that we would come in and help them, and we did all of their tents for them, all of their deliveries in our first year. At back then in 2016, we were doing everything just by square foot, and it wasn't even like a lot. It was like 35 cents a square foot was our take, but
Wow.
it was a great starter to do. We did, I think, 60 tents that summer.
Right.
Uh,
It gets you, like you said, like you wanted to test it out, and then you knew, like, okay, we could do this.
yeah, that company has since dissolved just because they couldn't get any staff for where they were. Um, so basically, I filled their whole void of not being there.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crazy. That is way different than everyone else does it. Everyone else buys a whole bunch of stuff and then hopes it's going to work. Not saying the tent axe isn't cheap. That was a lot of money to put up
Yeah.
front.
Well, the real nice thing about buying the 10 ox was that we were using it for other applications, right? So I mean, we get hammered with snow every winter.
Mm,
So I've got a snowblower attachment on the front of it. Worst case scenario, I just keep it to use to do my driveway, right?
right.
Uh, I've always had some sort of snowblower tractor option because our driveway is very long. Like it's I don't know, it's about 400 feet long. So doing it by hand really sucks.
Right.
And we get on like right now we have about a foot to 2 feet of snow on the ground, and on average year we're again 2 to 5 feet of snow.
Right.
So it just of that alone, it was worth buying.
Right. Yeah. For everyone who doesn't know what the tent axe is, this is what it looks like. And there's all these different attachments that you can add to it for tents or for snow or for people use it for other things. It's an Avant base. I don't know if I'm saying that right. And then the
Yeah,
tent axe is extra stuff you put on, and then it's branded tent axe. But a bunch of different industries use it, not just tent people.
yeah. Actually,
But
the thing we used it the most for was its forklift capabilities off road.
oh
So
yeah,
that one we weren't expecting that to be its biggest hit, but because again we're in the middle of the cottage country, it's rougher terrain. Sometimes we have to park our big truck and trailer way out because we can't even get in the driveway because
Right.
they go down these little goat paths basically to these cottages, and we could put everything on pallets and just drive it all back and forth, right? So that's
Right.
saved us huge amounts of time and
But
effort.
yeah, that's awesome. I've actually excluded one region where I'm at because it's up in the mountains, and everywhere is just like a tiny driveway, just like really annoying to get to places. And I'm not ready to get a tent axe yet, where I probably could, but don't really want to yet. But yeah, that if I had a tent axe, I could probably bring that area back into where I service. But
Yeah, but I would definitely suggest if you want to get into a 10 ox and you don't need it for deep snow or you don't need it for other applications, the little one, the 225, it looks hilarious, but
yeah,
it's a little powerhouse for doing tents. Like we have what's called the 640, so it's a diesel with a full cab because we do a lot of snow with it. Um, but the 225 or 220 or whatever the number is, it's just like a little tiny thing, basically comparable to a little lawn tractor, but it's fast.
right.
That would do everything you need.
Yeah, I know a few companies who. There's this one kid I talked to. I think he's only got 6 tents now, but they're all sailcloth tents. They're all big and heavy, 40 and 60 wides. Um, and his first year, he bought the tents and a tent axe, just because he didn't want to worry about employees. Like
Yeah,
him, one other person, and the tent axe can do all the work.
yeah, yeah. That's basically how we did it. Like our first install, like very first one, was a 4100, and it was me and one other guy.
Right. Yeah,
So
that's
it
rough.
took us quite a while, but we got a 4100, and the tent we used from this other company was probably 20 years old.
Oh,
The tent legs were basically 4x4 posts with a little spike in the top,
right.
and it was a bit of a challenge to try to get that thing square. Like once you square it, the tent's so out of like stretched, right? It
Yeah.
took a while to get it to line up nicely.
Right.
So we got it all put together and lifted really fast because we could put it up with the tractor and put all the stakes in, right?
Yeah, it's a big expense, but for some models of business, it's like it just makes everything easier. You mentioned you do things on islands.
Yes.
I wanted to follow up on that. So do you charge a whole bunch of money for that? What's the logistics like? The little boats? You get to charter a big boat? Like,
Yeah. So island jobs are actually really cool. Most people don't want to get into them because it's a logistical nightmare to most people.
right,
But we found, you know what, this is kind of a cool niche where we can really, really do a lot here because there's a lot of islands in our area or waterfront access only places. And what we did was we actually found a little bit of an older pontoon boat that we purchased. And what we do for our tents is we load the tents onto the boat while it's at the shop.
okay.
And then we just
What?
launch the boat and go.
Wait, so your shop is waterfront?
No, we put on a trailer.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So we trailer it to the shop and then we just take it to the boat launch.
Okay.
And
What if it's multiple trips that you have to get across?
yeah, so what we'll do then is if it's multiple trips, like if there's a tent and then there's 20 tables, 100 chairs, whatever, we would bring the secondary trailer to the boat launch and then go back and get the rest of the stuff. Or what has happened in the past is these owners of these cottages will they will rent a barge, and we will just come load our truck right up onto the barge with
Oh, that's
everything in
awesome.
it, and just over to the island we go.
Right. So, what's the delivery kind of fee like that? How do you figure that out?
So what we did, the first year we just charged by hour on how long it was going to take us to get to certain places. Um, and because the first year we did it, we didn't have a barge or a boat, so we just had to take their boat over and a barge over. I can actually tell you a couple of funny stories about boat rides over to islands, but basically charged by the hour per staff member that was there. Nobody ever bat an eye. It usually equaled out to between $700 and $1,000 for an island job, just in extra costs because we have
Right.
to the loading, unloading, carrying, and time
So,
sitting on the boat.
would you tell them that price up ahead, or would it be like at the end, like, oh man, it took 2 hours extra? This is the hourly rate for that.
So how we calculated it, the first way we did it was I would go with them to see the island because we like to do site visits.
Right.
It really helps. I hope most tent rental companies do that. So we'd take a boat ride over to see where the island is, and I would kind of gauge it by how long it took us to get there, and then it would give me an idea as how long the boat ride would be. Because when you take like a regular boat, you can get to an island if it's got a 110 horsepower motor or 200 horsepower motor or something. You can get there a lot faster than if you're on a barge, right? So you kind of just take the distance, and we kind of came up with a calculation of how long it would take us, and we got it pretty close. Just it's going to have some variable, but basically, for every 10 minutes on a boat was about half an hour on a barge.
Okay. So now, if you were on a barge that they paid for, obviously it's at some sort of place, it docks, you drive on, and it brings you to another road, and then you drive to their house. But if you're in your own pontoon boat, you just pull up to their front.
Yeah, we just pull up right up to their dock. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Jesus, that's crazy. Do you bring the tent axe over on it too?
We did once, and that was the dumbest thing we've ever done. Because there's one place we're doing this coming summer that will be easy for us to bring the tractor to. But when you bring the tent ox across, you have to be able to drive it to where the tent's going to go. Because most islands aren't at like a foot above water level. They go straight up, right?
Right.
So we thought we could get up this path that we just couldn't.
Okay. So you had to carry everything?
Yeah, we ended up carrying everything up.
Wow.
So that's an additional cost, right? Because now we're carrying everything up on top of an island. That also factors into that extra cost.
Right. You ever lose anything over the side of the boat?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So I'll give you a couple funny stories. So we're on last year. We were on Georgian Bay, which is one of the Great Lakes, kind of inlet of one of the Great Lakes. So it's a massive, massive lake. And we're in what's called the archipelago, which is just kind of like a sea of just islands all over the place. And then we go out to this island. It was a 40-minute boat ride with a boat that had two 220s on it. So it was a 2-hour barge ride.
Okay.
Now we had finished setup. Sorry, we were on takedown at this point. We had finished all the setup, done the blah blah blah. Now we're taken down the next Monday or so, and we're on the way back. And it's probably 50 feet deep, the water. And I'm sitting there on the bar, just in the chair, and then all I hear is, and I look through my pockets, the keys to the truck.
Oh no.
Yeah. And we're 2-hour barge ride. And so I call up my dad, actually, and I said, hey, can you bring the spare keys up? And we're an hour or so away, or hour and a half away from the shop. So he actually ended up picking up my 2 daughters from school and then drove up to where we were to the boat launch and still had half an hour wait time.
Really? Wow. But you haven't lost any, like a tent top didn't roll off or anything, did it?
Not a tent top. We have lost a corner.
Oh, okay.
So this one client we have, which is they're very, very wealthy. They have 5 boathouses at their property. And we put up a tent there almost annually for a big fundraiser they do. Very, very nice family. They actually hire a diver every fall to go down and collect things they've dropped in the lake.
Okay.
Because they have so much stuff going on there, they drop stuff in all the time.
Wow.
So they actually went down and fished it out.
So was that on takedown that you lost it, or was that?
Yeah, we've never lost anything on setup, only on takedown.
I would be so bummed out. You lose a corner piece, and it's like, oh my god, what do we do?
When we do our setups, because of the style of tent we use, we bring a couple extras of certain parts that don't float. Like I know if I drop a 15-foot pole in the water, it's going to float for at least a second and I can grab it.
Right.
But those steel fittings in the corners, they're going right down.
Yeah. Wow, that's cool. So that's cool. You got it back though.
Yeah.
Okay.
The keys I did not get back.
What's that?
The keys we did not get back.
No.
Yeah.
So let's move on to the barn venue.
Sure.
how'd you come into that? And then we'll describe that, because when people say barn venue, they think you're in the barn, but yours is kind of more of a feature of the property. So
Yeah. So there's this like really nice property. It's about 10 minutes away from us. That it's a 78-acre farm, and we actually approached the previous owner and asked if they were interested, and they were not. And then this last year, actually, the new owners, one of the owners actually applied for a job to work for us, and we didn't know where she lived and everything when we hired her. And then she said, "Hey, by the way, I live on this farm. Would you guys be interested in hosting weddings here?" And I said, "Yes, of course." And I told her, like, "Hey, we had actually approached these guys before to do this, and they weren't interested. But the new owners were 100% interested, and it's been really cool since then because one, we have a great, beautiful venue for brides that are in need of a spot that can't find anything, and especially with the pandemic, and I don't know what it's like where you are there, but for Ontario, we just keep getting in waves and waves of lockdowns and restrictions, so that now outdoor weddings are pretty much the only thing people can do.
okay.
So this opening this up has been very, very successful.
So they still own the property, and you do.
Correct. So they own the property, and it's kind of a nice layout where the way the farm is, the homesteads are off to one side and the farm's off to the other side, and it's a nice fenced in area that's quite large, so we can host like anywhere. We did a 50-person wedding, and we can host in the area about up to 500,
Right.
which hasn't happened yet. Those weddings are rare to hit. But the space is quite nice because it's got a 200-year-old barn, and what we found was doing it inside the barn was less ideal um, for multiple reasons. The main one, just the fire insurance was crazy.
Okay.
So what we did was we have the ceremony outside facing the barn doors, which so far nobody's complained about. The only exception to it is if it's raining, they do it inside the barn.
Okay.
And then from there, we have a big tent set up in the field that's where they do the reception.
That's cool. So if someone's trying to book there, who do they call? Do they call the landowners, or do they call you guys?
So they'll call us. The landowners, they didn't want to deal with any of the actual dealing with the clients. They just wanted to sit back and enjoy it. They collect a check from us every time there's an event, and most of the time they go to a hotel when there's an event.
Really? So is it? So they're not doing anything. They're letting you use the land. Like it's not just someone coming in and renting a tent at that price only. They're paying for that location too.
Correct. So they're paying. There's a venue fee, plus there's a full setup fee.
Okay. And then I already talked to you about this, but you're not a wedding mill. You don't do Friday, Saturday, Sunday, right? You just
Correct.
It's the week that weekend they get it.
Yeah. So we looked at doing it a couple different ways, but if you tried to do too much in a weekend, then you're just exhausted for the next week, right? So we did. You know what? We said to the brides, "You can come in. We'll have everything, all the bulk stuff set up for you on Friday, and you can come in and do your setup Friday, Saturday morning, have your wedding Saturday night, and then come clean up Sunday."
Right. Yeah, I like that better.
Because
I don't like wedding mills, like,
no,
because
it's too much going on.
it's stressful for them too. Like they have to come in that morning and then be out that night at 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock. And then the next people, it's just too stressful.
Yeah, like imagine planning your wedding and then you're like, okay, we have 2 hours to set up, and as soon as we're done at 1 o'clock in the morning, while we're all drunk, go take it down.
Right. So do you put a tent up every time for it, or is the tent up?
The tent typically would be up, but basically we'll look at what we have booked, and then there's sometimes we'll take that tent and rent it out somewhere else if there's nothing booked.
Okay.
We typically put up, because the average size has been about 100. We put up a 30 by 60 pole tent, so we can put that up with the crew of 4 in about an hour and a half, 2 hours.
Right. I was gonna say, like, because if you had some sort of floor system and you have one of your structure tents up, you could just keep it up all year. but not all year, all summer. But then you just mentioned 30 by 60. What if someone doesn't have a 200-person wedding? They just need 60 people.
Well, also, if you leave the tent up the whole time, the grass is underneath. Is just that spot's going to be horrible.
Yeah, that's why you'd have to do some sort of floor, I guess.
Yeah, so we thought about doing a full floor for it, but again, because it's at a farm, they requested we don't.
Right.
So because they do use the grass for pasture in the spring and fall.
Right. So that the thing you just mentioned about if you leave it up all the time, the grass underneath, it'll just turn to dirt and then mud, basically.
Yeah.
So how is it from like if you have one this week and one next week? How is it then? Is it like still good, or you move the tent?
Yeah, so we'll leave it up there. If we're gonna leave it up all year, we'll move it to different little spots so that spot can still get sun and water or whatever, and be mowed. Because the one thing you don't want is when they're mowing grass is to just fire grass all over your tent, right?
Oh yeah, that's happened.
As we all know, you arrive there and like, oh, we're gonna go cut the grass now.
Yeah,
no, you're not.
no, I told you we're gonna be here between this time and this time on this day. You should have taken care of that.
Yeah, like in my quotes, I say, cut the grass 2 days ahead.
Right. We've had ones where so we set the tent up and then we come back and they just went around the tent with it blowing onto the sidewalls. It's like, well, if you're at least go the other way, how stupid can you be?
Yeah. And then they'll complain about the grass stains.
Yeah. Well, that's your fault, people. So like, has there been any like challenges or like weird things that happen with doing the barn venue?
There have been. The biggest challenge is not so much even the setup or dealing with the owners. The biggest challenge has been some of the clients just respecting property, which is I didn't think would be an issue until we did a couple events, and they're like, some people just, I don't know, they have a few too many, and then they just turn into not nice people, right?
Yep. I mean, you own an Airbnb too.
Yep.
Probably the same thing in that. You're just the amount of disrespect. In an Airbnb, you're just like, how does this happen?
Yeah. So the nice thing about our Airbnb is that it's on the same property that we live on. It's just a different spot.
Okay.
And so we can see like, hey, you said you were coming with 5 people. There's 45 over there. Get out.
Have you done that? Have you kicked people out in the middle of their
stay? We had to kick out one person. They decided to have a big bonfire right in front of the deck. There's a bonfire pit and everything for it. They put it like 2 feet in front of the house and then just started cutting down trees to put in the bonfire. So I was like, you can't cut my trees down to start a bonfire.
No, that's ridiculous. Also, they're not seasoned.
Yeah.
But, all right. So you own a party rental company. You got a place to do the venue, which is cool because you're getting money for the land, but you do have to give some money, and then you're getting money for the tent and stuff. But it's a consistent thing. You just know how to do it. You know when you can show up. So that's cool. You got an Airbnb. What else do you
do? Well, we also in the shoulder seasons we do landscaping and firewood.
Okay.
So because we have the Avant, we can do a lot of landscape work. We don't do anything like crazy. We just get into like maybe 2 projects a year of just some redoing people's yards,
right?
As well as a little bit of grass cutting with it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I figured I wasn't leading to that. It was going to be a different question, but as I was listening to this off, I'm like, he must be doing more things too. I was leading to what are your plans for the future, whether it's a tent company, the barn, or more Airbnbs?
Yeah, so our plan for the future, like every year we're rewriting our 5-10 year plans, right, and our business plans. But is consistent, like what is sustainable growth is our main thing. Like what is sustainable? Because I can only be in so many places at once. And with the tent rental company, again, like how many people can we bring in that are knowledgeable enough to install tents? That how big can we actually grow this thing, right?
Right.
So we're limited a little bit by people. Right. Same with the landscaping side of things. Like we could take on 6,000 weddings a year, but if you've only got 5-10 people you can find, that's not going to work.
Right.
So our main thing is finding ways to grow without having to deal with the labor issues.
Right.
So our main focus this year is actually purchasing tools to help us install with less people faster.
Right. Yeah, that's key. Yeah, it's like you boil it down. Basically, you buy more equipment and hire more employees to do more work,
Yeah.
or you get more equipment to get your work done faster, more efficient, thus making more profit instead of overall revenue. Because you can make a bunch of revenue but come back with nothing. But if you
Yeah,
make everything faster, you can make more profit.
exactly. Like I talked to a couple different guys that are around that we kind of spitball back and forth with each other about stuff. Um, I got different answers from everybody about what they would want to do, what they want to see, and some guys are saying, "Hey, get more get Shivari chairs or crossback chairs because you can rent those out and make money off it." But if you have nobody to move them,
Right.
it doesn't help you, right? So, like we have enough tents that if we put them out every single weekend with the amount of staff we had last year, like our guys will die.
Right.
Um, I'd like to bring on more people. We do pay fairly well and offer benefits to our drivers and the laborers. Like our starting wage is this year is going to be for non-students is $20 an hour.
Right. Yeah, that's good.
Um, so we're pretty competitive for the area. But again, like talking to everybody else, it's hey, what can we do to do things better? What can we do to grow, right? So some guys are like, oh, just keep buying more rental stuff. Some guys are like, oh, just buy nothing and just keep going with what you got. Whereas that's not our strategy. We want to find ways to grow sustainably.
Right. Well, you said that it's like a cottage place. It's like it's really bumping in the summer months. Are you going to get more short-term rental properties?
So with the properties, we haven't looked at that too much as to getting too many more. Like there's hundreds of Airbnbs around the area.
Right.
What we are doing is we do is as I have a team of cottage cleaners.
Oh,
So
okay.
there's a team of 4 girls that they clean cottages for me for Airbnb and cottage rentals. So cottage rentals is huge here. So it's not like I do a whole lot on that end, but they do enough to keep going for 3 or 4 days a week.
Right. On my other channel, I've been interviewing Airbnb hosts. And there's a guy, he's a property manager or a short-term rental manager. And it's very interesting. So some rich person comes in, buys the house, but they live 200, 300 miles away. And it's an investment for them. The property manager, he lists the house under his own Airbnb account. He determines the cleaning fee. He gets the entire cleaning fee. He takes in the entire amount for the house, and then he takes his percentage. And then, so say it's like he takes 20% per rental. And then he sends the other people the thing. So he has 100% control of it, of the prices of fluctuating things in this. And the other person was really just like an investor, and they don't even have anything to do with it besides buying a very expensive place. It was very interesting to me. I think I want to try to go that route.
There is actually a few companies up here that do that. Now there is some issues that people have been having with Airbnb and short-term rentals because this is cottage country and it is all on the lake, people partying, and so it may get shut down in the future here for a lot of it. But for us, I haven't thought about too much about getting into more of the Airbnb properties. I think for us, just the one is enough to handle. Plus our cleaning team, like with everything else that's going on, our summers it's really busy.
Yeah, definitely.
Our biggest challenge is winter work.
Right. So I know this is a temp podcast, but I want to follow up with the cleaner thing. So are you paying them hourly, and then the customer of the owner of the Airbnb has to pay you a big lump sum? Basically, my question is like, you're making money on their labor, right? It's not just like a wash.
So what we do is we do a flat rate from the customer to us, and then a flat rate from us to the cleaner.
Okay.
And then we make a percentage off the top.
That's awesome. I like that.
So literally all I do is answer a phone.
Right. And handle logistics and telling people where to go.
Exactly. Which you'd be surprised how many people just physically don't want to do is just answering the phone to take clients and start coordinating things.
Right. Still on the cleaning. Sorry, everyone. This is a tent podcast, but so what if the cottage is on a different island? Then the cleaner needs to take a boat over there, or do you just really do the ones that you can drive to?
Yeah, so we our cleaners do have a couple island ones, and we make sure that the owner of the island provides the boat.
Okay, so they have to hire a service or something.
They either have to hire a water taxi or they have to be there to bring them across, depending on, because a lot of these cottage owners may have it's either their own cottage or they have a cottage beside the cottage they rent out.
Gotcha. Wait, water taxi, is that like an Uber? Is there like an Uber system up there for water taxis?
Kind of. It's not really Uber, but basically there's companies that they just call themselves water taxi for so and so lake.
That's interesting.
There's 3 main lakes here, and there's a whole bunch of little tiny ones all over the place as well. But it's mostly the 3 main lakes that have the water taxis.
Right. All right. So still on the cleaning. So the girl has to get on a boat, go over to an island, and clean. Does the boat time? Does that include, like, you are getting a flat rate, but do you have to pay her for the boat time?
Yeah, so all that's included. So basically we say, okay, so you got to go over on a boat that's X amount extra. And then she also gets her time. Like, basically what we do, the first clean is hourly. And then whatever that time is, we times it to 1.25. And that's what we charge the client. And then we pay the cleaner accordingly.
Gotcha. And then I'm going to assume that the client's got to have stuff at their house, because you can't be bringing over a vacuum cleaner and shop vacs and tons of stuff with you on a boat all the time.
So that client, what we did was we set the cleaners up with very, very easy to carry across vacuums. We set them up with sharks, they're called.
Okay.
It weighs like maybe 6 pounds. And then we have a little, they carry a little caddy with them. So they do bring their own vacuum. Some of them are cordless, some of them are corded. But a lot of the times the client, they don't want to provide anything. They don't want to be there. So there's oftentimes a vacuum there.
Right.
But most of the time the girls like to use their own stuff just because they're used to it.
And then how do they handle the laundry with all the sheets? It's just probably on site. There's a laundry machine.
So the last 2 years anyway, it's been bring your own sheets to the clients, to the cottage renters.
Oh, okay.
We haven't done much in the way of a linen service. We do what we would do if anything was provide fresh linens from, because we have what's called a fabric care. I don't know what the companies are that are in the States, but they basically will wash and fold, put them back together and put them in a bag for us. So we would just throw them in a bag, take them back, get the new ones.
Yeah. So every time you went over, you would have clean ones, bring dirty ones back. It would just be like a rotation.
Yeah.
Okay, that's cool. Well, everyone's sorry we cut off on that, but like, I want to get into more Airbnbs. And we also started thinking about starting a cleaning company, because we pay some dude to go clean. So why don't we make a cleaning company? Then he can go clean other ones, and then it'll just be a good business to have, because we already have an Airbnb.
What's really nice with having a cleaning company is you can honestly make all your cleaners subcontractors, and if they want to do stuff on the side, that's fine, as long as they do your cleans.
That's cool.
Employees.
I'll have to look into that here in New York, how that would be. All right, well, Devin, thank you for coming on. Thanks for sharing all that information. And again, everyone, sorry, we went off on the cleaning thing, but I know some of you guys out there own Airbnbs as well. Devin, I hope I'm going to follow your website and see all you're doing. Thank you for coming on, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, man. Have a good one. You too.